Okay, so Ramadan is right around the corner, and if you haven't done anything to prepare, this video is for you. I hear a lot of people talking about how when Ramadan comes, they're not that excited because they feel tired all the time. But to be honest with me, it's kind of the complete opposite. And you might notice this as well with some people in your life. Some people find Ramadan so invigorating and they have more energy during Ramadan, which is counterintuitive, right? It makes no sense. When you're without any food, you should have less energy, but that's not the case. And the best part is you also have a better attitude about everything in life, right? You remember Allah more often. And in general, you want to be around a person like that, a person who has that good attitude. This is a trait that not many people have, but it's actually exposed during Ramadan. The trait of being high energy even when you are without any food or any water and you still have a good attitude. And this is a trait that you'll only acquire if you already do good habits before Ramadan. So basically, if you're not in need of Ramadan in a way, you'll see the people who already pray tahajjud, who already pray very good, high quality prayers, and who already memorize Quran and have a lot of knowledge. These people go into Ramadan having really high energy and a really good attitude. And that's what you want to aim for. So you can't just prepare for Ramadan in 2-3 days. You have to lock in the whole year. You have to really get on your grind in terms of your deen in order to actually be high energy and have a really good attitude during Ramadan. Either way, even if you still have 2-3 days to prepare for Ramadan, you could still make the most out of it. Because what happens a lot of times is when we don't have a strict schedule of what we're actually going to do, we just end up acting on our desires and we have no direction. So that's why the most practical advice I can give you is be very clear on what your goals are and what your intentions are. So I would say literally write these down and watch over them, read over them. So for example, if your goals are to do certain good deeds, maybe it's to wake up for tahajjud every single day, or at least if not every single day, once a week. And maybe it's to also give charity every single Friday. You know the basic Ramadan things, right? Do more good deeds. And on top of writing down the specific intentions and goals that you have, also create a schedule. Schedule based on, firstly, your sleep, because of course that's super important. And especially during Ramadan, you're not going to have a lot of sleep, but you can still have high energy. And also write down what you're going to do throughout the day. So when are you going to read Quran? When are you going to do maybe dhikr? When are you going to do these certain tasks? And that way, when Ramadan comes, you're not going to be confused about when should I read Quran? When should I do this? Now, one of the best things you could do is have daily targets for certain things. And what I like to have is daily targets for 1, my dhikr, and 2, Quran. So normally in my day-to-day life, when it's not Ramadan, I have daily targets for dhikr and Quran, right? But when it's Ramadan, I want to pump these up and really recite a lot of Quran and recite a lot of dhikr. So what I would do is write down how much Quran I want to recite and how much dhikr I want to recite. For me, I want to double my dhikr and also read about at least 1 juz a day, but preferably 2 juz. What I want you to do is take how much ever you're doing right now in terms of your Quran or your dhikr, or if you're not doing any, add some, and then write that number down and then do that every single day of Ramadan. But if you're not used to these new habits, reciting Quran and reciting the dhikr, you need to act as if Ramadan starts now. So this is actually what I'm doing. Instead of just waiting till Ramadan and waiting till it starts and the first day of fasting to read that many Quran pages, I'm starting right now and reading this many, like 2 juz, 1 juz, every single day. That way when Ramadan comes, I already have that momentum and that's going to carry me and make it really easy for me to stick on these habits. So write down your targets for dhikr, Quran, or istighfar, or whatever else, and then start right now, or maybe start tomorrow. Now that's of course the basic stuff, doing the good habits and increasing the amount you do them, but there's very important things that you need to understand on a more spiritual level, which is practicing self-control with all of your body parts. Now Allah tells us that the point of Ramadan is to achieve taqwa and God consciousness. Taqwa basically means that you're constantly aware that Allah is watching you and that you're going to avoid sins because you know Allah is there. So Ramadan is not just about practicing self-control with your eating and drinking, but it's also about practicing self-control with all of your body parts. For example, your ears. Maybe you listen to music. That's something that you're really going to need to cut out during Ramadan. And also maybe your tongue. Your tongue probably says insults and backbites. These are things that you need to understand are hurting in Ramadan. And of course your eyes. Allah tells us to lower our gaze. And that's something you need to especially be aware of during Ramadan. But at the end of the day, Allah says we need to achieve taqwa. And taqwa is just being aware. So when you're constantly aware that you need to lower your gaze and you're constantly aware that you need to watch your mouth, then you're going to achieve taqwa because that directly is what taqwa is. And a little bonus secret is you also want to fast in terms of your mind and your desires. You want to fast from thoughts because a lot of times thoughts are what lead to certain desires and those desires lead to, of course, sinful action. So you actually want to watch your thoughts and become more cognizant of what you're actually thinking of. And one of the most important things in Ramadan is to change something about your life and then keep that after Ramadan. In fact, it's said that a sign that you know your Ramadan is accepted is if something you changed in your life, during Ramadan, you keep that habit after Ramadan. So you really want to make sure you change something about your life. It could be literally anything. It could be either adding a good habit or breaking a bad habit. In fact, my last Ramadan, I had the intention going in of trying to really perfect my prayer in terms of khushu'. Now, that actually didn't even happen. During that Ramadan, I wasn't able to have as much khushu' as I wanted. What actually happened is my intention completely changed to learning to memorize Quran. And that's a habit that I actually got out of the last Ramadan, and that really changed my life and something that I still do to this day. So I want you to think of something you need to change in your life, or something you want to add in your life. Maybe you want to add the habit of memorizing Quran. Maybe you want to add khushu' and salah, or maybe you want to add gaining knowledge. Or maybe you have a really bad habit of listening to music, and that's something that you want to break. Basically, choose something, write it down, and focus on eliminating or adding if it's a good habit. So those are the main points you need to understand with Ramadan. But I'm also going to give you a few tips and a few extra things you should add during Ramadan. The first thing in general is to improve your prayer quality. And the way you do this is by cutting out influences. At the end of the day, our prayer quality is going to be determined by how much influence you have from other things. Because if you just got off a bad day of school or work or whatever you have, and maybe you're watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and maybe people said bad things to you, you're going to think about these things in prayer, and that's going to distract you in prayer. So Ramadan is a time to cut out all distraction and cut out busyness in your head and really focus on what matters in your life, which is Allah. The next thing is to stop wasting time. Unfortunately, this is an epidemic, especially among Muslims my age and your age. We use social media way too much. We use YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, and we waste so much time. The way you fix this is two things. Firstly, use a routine. The reason why you're on social media or you're on YouTube in the first place is because you're bored and you don't know what to do. For example, after Asr time, let's say you have nothing to do, you're just going to default to YouTube or social media. But now let's say you actually have something slotted in at that time. Maybe you tell yourself, I'm going to memorize Quran after Asr. Now that time you use productively instead of just wasting it because you had no clue what to do with it. And the second thing to do is instead of watching these random useless YouTube videos that are just entertainment, switch the YouTube videos that you watch to beneficial ones. Switch it to Islamic lectures, for example. That's something that really benefited me because normally what I do, for example, is I'd eat lunch or, without fasting, of course. I'd eat lunch and watch a random YouTube video that's not really useful. Instead, when you switch it to Islamic lecture or something beneficial, you're actually gaining benefit, gaining knowledge, but you're not wasting time at the same time. The next thing, you probably already know this, but since Ramadan is the month of forgiveness, you need to be spamming forgiveness and spamming astaghfirullah and spamming du'as. What I would say is set a zikr goal. So set an amount of times you want to say astaghfirullah every single day, or just say any du'as in general. And the last thing is start a habit of gaining knowledge. I would say it's as simple as reading one hadith every single day, and that could set you on your path to gaining knowledge. And even though it might sound like very little, you'll see by maybe if you do this just for 30 days, for the whole Ramadan, you'll realize by the end of it, you're significantly more knowledgeable just because you read a few hadiths. And if you keep that for the rest of your life after Ramadan, you'll have so much benefit and it will be great for you. And finally, there are a few du'as you need to know for Ramadan, and I'll put those on the screen right now. That's pretty much all I have for this video. I hope you benefited. Check out some clean Islamic streetwear in the description. Don't forget to stop making du'a to Allah. Assalamu alaikum.